Hey guys, Adrian Palmer here. I'm the founder of the Constant Gym Podcast. I'm here to let you guys know that I'll be coming out with another dope episode. This time, this one is for my athletes. It'll be called Life After Sports. I'll be having another dope episode with another dope perspective. Malachi Miles, my brother. And what we'll be discussing is the mindset that you have to compete in sports, and a mindset and how it changes and alters when you're not competing in sports after your career is then over. Also fulfilling the expectations that you have for yourself, but also for the other expectations that you have from your peers, from your loved ones and whatnot, and how your mental space is also affected from the different environmental changes that comes with competing as an athlete. So yeah, I can't wait to get this episode started with you guys. Also coming soon, my Conscious Gym Podcast jerseys will be available soon on my actual website, consciousgymspodcast.com. So it'll be featured Conscious Gyms on the front, and on the back will be my fighter nickname. So yeah, they'll be coming out soon. They'll be available very, very soon. So yeah, protect your peace. Check on your loved ones. Nervy. Me nerves. Ain't nothing to be nervous about. Bro, we have conversations like this all the time. It's just the fact that we being recorded. Oh. Me nerves. We got like 6 on here now. I said we got like 6 on here now. Yeah, 7 minutes. We can wait. We can start now. We can wait 3 more minutes, and then then start from there. Cause I already know what I want to say. I'm just gonna speak from the heart. Just let all that stuff flow. Bro, it's like us having a regular conversation, bro. We just airing it. That's all it is.
But I'm about to go ahead.
Say what?
Emails will start.
Start now?
Yep.
All right, but all right, let me go ahead and get them a little noise in. All right. Hey guys, you are now tuned in to the Conscious Gym Podcast. I am your host, I'm your guest, I am the founder, Adrian Palmore. I am here with my guest, my dope brother here, Malachi Miles. We'll be talking about life after sports. So yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about yourself.
What's going on, everybody that don't know? I'm a friend of go back. Well, I want to say like 5 years now. We known each other about
2015.
Went to college together, so watch growth. Watch him go from athlete. What would you podcaster? What does that even title for that?
So like I don't know. I say most like it's most like an author, like host, like an author, like a host. Yeah. So I think that's kind of how I went about it, just saying like it's a host. So
founder of Conscious Gym Podcast, mental health. From football to that, and transition back right to main fighters. My boy, what's the transition? Proud of you.
Yeah, for sure. So like, we could just go ahead and start off with the first part of this. So since we was talking about life after sports, like, I mean, me and you both played football. We played football together, and now we've went into our own avenue about how we would go about our daily lives and things like that, and doing what we thought was best for us, knowing that we had to make a transition from something that we felt like we were going to be doing for the rest of our lives. It felt like this was going to be the avenue that we was going to use to provide for our family in the best of ways and be the biggest players and stuff like that when it came down to being a football player. So like, personally, how do you feel about your transition when it came from you being a football player to now being who you are today? And what things did you take from that aspect of football that made you have to transition that made that transition smoother for you?
I would say, the number one thing take from sports probably be the work. I definitely my everyday life, and I noticed there are a lot of people who didn't play sports, don't have drive and that motivation. And I'm not saying that they play sports. I'm not saying for those that don't, but I know for me, I took that same drive and work ethic, applied it to her life. So lately, you know, juggling businesses, different avenues, football. A lot of people drive, a lot of people on hard I go for. I feel like that from sports, that really comes from sports. It's a transition. But time, difficult part going from doing something your whole life, obviously since I was 7, 8 years old, and then obviously 22, I think I playing sports. 2 years old, I something for over years. When it's like, okay, now who am I? Who is Malachi about football? That's something that I would out to my father because he definitely let me know more than just he always instilled. So regardless of if you you're more so I always that so I always have motivation to do out of sports. Easy because I knew that I had more for myself in store than percent.
Yeah. And I think like for me, like when it first hit me that I wasn't gonna be playing football anymore, it was more so of me making a decision to put the football down and make that transition because I could continue to pursue like the football avenue, but I also had to see how my goals will align with me playing football. Because I know when my first dream of me being able to play football was always, when I grow up, I want to be one of the best football players ever. I want to be able to provide for my family because I know the fruits of the labor that comes with being a football player. And I just knew that it was a certain lifestyle that I wanted to live, especially knowing that you come from a certain background and you come from nothing, knowing that what football could be able to do for you and how it could be able to help you provide for your family in I would say in a dramatic way or a big magnitude way. I think it helped me feel like I could keep pursuing that because I feel like I had that much belief in my talent and my athletic ability. So what happened was I took that goal that I had, and when I made the transition from not being a football player but to being an MMA fighter, I took those goals and I kept them as my goals because the vessel I was using to get to where I wanted to go changed, the goals didn't change. My vessel just became something else, my podcast. It also became my clothing line. It also became me being an MMA fighter. So I was using other vessels to get to where I was going. So I understood that my identity isn't my vessel. My vessel is my vehicle to get to my destination, which is my goal. But I'm still the same person to get to that place. But it just required me to be a different type of person. Like not even a different type of person. It just required me to have a different shift in focus to understand, okay, now I'm not doing this. I need to do this. And then now that I'm not just a football player, let me go ahead and put that exercise to my right and my focus into these other things. But I think when we end up,
what was your purpose?
My purpose was to be able to take care of my family forever, but also a generation after that and after that. So I think that my purpose was bigger than me. It also understood that that was what was driving me to push through the days when I realized or felt like I was never going to be good enough to be where I wanted to be or fulfill those goals. So I think that my purpose was bigger than my fear, but it was also bigger than knowing that if I failed, like it was in the back of my mind. So I was like, man, forget failing. I have to go ahead and do this, So I think that was ultimately like what could be continued to push me.
Yeah.
So like now thinking about it now, like I think knowing that that purpose is still being fulfilled through something else, I think it also gives me a sense of poise, knowing that my purpose is still the same. Like knowing that I want to continue to be that person that also, break these generational curses in my family. I understand that, wow, I just changed my vessel, but the purpose is still the same. The goal is still the same. So I feel like I wasn't losing time. I felt like I was having a better opportunity because the longevity of what I can do with my fight career, you know, the
Right.
longevity of what I can do with my clothing line or with my podcast. So I started exercising my right in different avenues. So once I realized that, it was almost like, dang, this is a smarter business move. You know, I felt like I kind of got out of a situation early enough to then know that I could still be on my way to doing what I set out to do. It's just going to be up to me to be able to continue to do it or not.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that was one of the best things that I could have done. So
I think it's interesting how both of our purposes are the same.
yeah,
So yours is family, right?
for
I feel
sure.
like mine is family as well. And I know that's a question that you're going to ask is, what is my purpose, behind playing sports? It was always creating success for my family and using football as a vehicle to do so because there are no millionaires in my family, right? And, the average NFL salary is $860,000, right? So very shy of $1 million. So for me, it's like, okay, if I know that I'm planning on having these dreams and aspirations and goals of being the most successful, financially in my family, I knew that that came with a lot of responsibility, and I knew that I would have to pour back into those, who were close to me. So for me, it was always, what can I do for those around me when I get to that point when I am deemed successful, right? But at the same time, I also knew that the average NFL player's career is 3 years, 3.3 to be exact. So if I know that the average time I'm going to be playing is 3 years and the average salary is 860,000, Malachi, you're really only looking at average. You're really only looking at little less than $3 million, which is fine, right? But take our liability, take our assets, take out all the stuff I'm gonna buy, right? Take all the stuff I'm probably gonna waste my money on, right? On top of giving out and handing out money, that's not really no real money, right? So it's like for me, I knew okay, I wanted success for those around me, right? But I knew I had to at the same time figure out what did I want to do after sports, right? What is it that I want to do after sports? And truthfully, I didn't know. I didn't know. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to be some type of business owner, but I didn't know of what. I really didn't know. So it wasn't until reality set in when my sports career is finally done. I got blessed to be put in a position to be pushed in that direction, and a whole bunch of blessings were just pouring down. A lot of things were happening. I didn't know why, but I felt like I went so hard and I asked for so much in sports. I didn't get it, but then the blessings then poured over into real life after sports, and that's why I was able to be successful. I feel like almost immediately when I know a lot of people don't have that same type of story. A lot of people after sports they go back home, and a lot of times, a lot of guys that play sports, they grow up in bad neighborhoods, or they grow up in families that they don't really have nothing going on, so they either go and they indulge in anything illegal, or they go and they work a 9 to 5, and that's very stressful because you had these $1 million dreams, and then all that is cut short, and then I was like, you just, in a sense, you feel regular. You don't feel like you're worth anything anymore.
but I think a lot of the common problems that athletes run into, depending on your purpose, because I know a
Mm.
lot of us are have different purposes when we are trying to fulfill our dreams through athletic avenues. I feel like some people are more like, oh, I'm just doing this to get my education for free. I'm enjoying the ride. So once I'm done, I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be that. So they also already know their plan and they have a course of action on how they're going to take that, whether it's through the athletic avenue or through the education avenue, which is not a problem. My thing is understanding that we all run into a problem. A common problem is understanding that our vessel is not our identity. So I think that's one of the big problems that we run into, because it's almost like you've already associated yourself so much with something that you do day in and day out and you love so
Mm-hmm.
much, it just becomes a part of you. So when you take that part from you, it's almost like, damn, what's left if I've already poured so much time and effort into a certain thing. And what I had to come to understand was that I started tapping in for me personally. I had to start tapping into the other things that I like to do, and then had to start realizing that I wasn't afraid or afraid to fail or afraid to realize or even afraid to even for other people to have their opinions, because if I feel like if I always would then become a victim of anybody else's opinions, I would never be in a place or position to be able to elevate in other ways that I would see myself being able to do it. Because it's like, what
That's
happens if you realize that you're good at one thing, but you may be good at other things, but you've never even exercised your
Right.
right to be able to do those other things because you've always felt like how you'll be viewed and things like that. But I also think that a lot of us come into a place where it's like we're so much invested in plan A, it's almost to the point where if plan A doesn't work, then you almost lose yourself. So we have people who don't really understand, like, what else am I going to be able to pour all this effort and things into if I don't like things as much as I like this particular sport?
Right.
Because I mean, like, a lot of us went to school, like a lot of us went to school. I mean, I love school, so I can't really say that, but a lot of people went to school just solely because of their sport. So when you take away that sport, then what is it that they're going to go so hard in if they don't love anything else besides that sport? So do they have to find themselves? They have to also look for other things that they love to do on that scale, but you may not never even love anything on that scale. So then you have to find something that you can then be able to provide for yourself, but also still be in, I would say, in the same avenue to be able to go to the goals that you're trying to reach, if that makes sense.
Right.
So like, I know, like, for me, when I was done with football, I was blessed, like you said, I was blessed in the opportunity to be able to put football down and still had the opportunity to still go out and play football. I just decided to be like, no, look, I'm gonna be a fighter. This is what I'm gonna do. And I seen the potential I had in it, and from people to be able to be there for me, pros wise, and people who were around me to be able to, hey, look, do this. You're that good. Do this. It put me in a position for me to be able to, like, I learned focus. I learned time management. I learned how to take care of my body. I learned how to be there for myself. I remember having bag practices and all that stuff. I took those attributes and be able to apply them to my fighting lifestyle. You know, so like you said, like, I started being one of the hardest workers when it came down to the transition of this sport to me, because I knew what it took, because I played football on a high level, you know, so I knew, like, okay, for me to be the best, I need to be able to do this extra work for this. So it's like I'm a year in and I'm kind of coaching other people who are around the same, you know, not even just age, but it's kind of around the same experience as me. So it's almost like, dang, like, they don't have that same, you know, want to in it because they haven't figured it out yet. Because I figured out my purpose and my vessel already, and I know where I'm headed at. And I knew where I was headed at when I was doing football, and I knew what it was going to have to take because of the different obstacles, the different variables that was put in place, and the different setbacks that made me have to wisen up enough to know that, okay, this is what I have to do to get the leg up, you know. So a lot of people don't get those avenues and get those kind of precious moments to be able to wisen up in due time, you know.
That's true.
So I do think we were blessed in a sense to be able to, you know, manifest things how we would want them to do. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about it is that the journey is still going. And so I was like thinking to myself through all this whole, like Nipsey said, he's like, you're gonna go through a series of emotions, every emotion when you're on your journey to wherever you're headed at. And sometimes wherever you're headed at, you may not end up going there, or you may be put a fork in the road and maybe going around different places. And you may not always be on a straight line path to wherever you're headed. But how do you feel like your mental space, or how any athlete mental space is affected during the course of their athletic career and even after their athletic career?
So I feel like during, it varies beyond the athlete, because you can have people who, let's say, for example, okay, boom. So you have athletes, right, that are very good, and they almost been sheltered or baby because they're so good, right? Coaches give them everything. They didn't really have to go hard in school, right? Class is always taken care of by a friend, or, you know, somebody at the teacher or somebody at the coach knew.
You know, tutors and stuff, yeah.
Tutors and stuff like that. Could half-ass at times and never really have to go hard because I knew they was going to play, right? I feel like for those specific athletes, when they hit real life, it's like, okay, that's not the case. Like, you're good at football, cool, but that's not how it's going to be in real life. So at that time, they may have felt like it feels good, and they may feel like, oh, okay, well, these people really rock me, they care about me. But truthfully, they don't, because they're allowing you to build bad habits. So then what happens when real life hits and you realize that nobody cares about how good you are at football no more. So nobody's going to baby you or hold your hand or just give you things because you were good at a sport, right? But then you have the opposite side for those who were just regular or average athletes, or maybe even those that weren't that good, that had to grind and work super hard just to take that other athlete's spot, right? You have those who already have that mindset of having to work hard and almost feel like they have to prove themselves. And I feel like that's a position I was always in. I was always the smallest, always the shortest on the field. So I always felt like I had something to prove. So then that's why that translates now to me after sports. I feel like that's so high. So I always feel like I have to prove something to somebody. And that can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing because then it creates this sense where I never feel success. I don't feel successful. I don't feel like I'm doing anything crazy. So I have people that come to me like, yo, Malachi, you're doing so well. You know, you have multiple businesses you got going on. Your film business is taking off. And I can't even enjoy it because I'm just like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything special. Well, maybe that's because my goals are so high. I
Yeah,
never really taste success, and I don't really know I don't know what's going to have to happen in order for me to be successful. But a lot of that stems from being in sports and having to feel like I have to prove something to somebody. So then now translating to real life, I feel like I'll never
well,
be
you feel
able
like
to
you ain't
truly.
did nothing yet,
Yeah, I feel like I haven't did nothing.
for sure. And I think another thing is like how you said about like I remember my coach telling me before I went to college, he was like, you guys gotta understand, you gotta be selfish in a sense. You have to be able to understand the things that you have to take away from the game, because the things you take away from the game are going to be knowledge and power that you're going to be able to utilize when
Mm-hmm.
you go to the next level for other things that you do in your life, because you won't be playing football forever. And
Right.
what I had to then understand with what you just said about how people are then baby because they've been getting everything due to their athletic ability, I also had to understand that we all have vessels. While that person who may be been the best player their whole life, they used football and their athletic ability to be the vessel that they used to be able to get to wherever they were going and wherever they were headed at. But at the same time, the people that were babying them and not being able to hold them accountable to the things that would help
Mm-hmm.
them, be a better person and not just a better
Right.
football player, they utilized their athletic ability as a vessel to be able to get them where they wanted to go. So a coach who would just use you as your oh, I'm not gonna worry about his attitude. He got his left bit of athletic ability, and that's gonna help us win games. He just used
Mm-hmm.
you as a vessel to win the other games because it would coincide with his common goal, and your
Right.
attitude didn't, and your athletic ability is bigger than the attitude is what he's not worried about. So
Right.
that's what happens. We all have different purposes in our lives, and only thing we're going to focus on is the vessel that we're using. So
Right.
sometimes we can then be able to be like, we can think of things that are then minuscule on a certain scale, but if we don't look at it if we look at it in a different context, it's like, how long is that going to be minuscule on that scale for how long? you
Mm-hmm.
know so that's another thing I had to also realize, is that knowing that I was also put in positions that I felt like was unfair, but I know a lot of the times that I had to understand was that how many times in life are we going to be dealt hands that are unfavorable? How many odds is it going to be that's not going to be in our favor, to the point where you have to be able to work twice as hard? You have to understand African American males, with all the things that we have as setbacks and as many things that we have and we are looked at, and that outlook that we broadcasted upon, and how they portray us in the media and stuff like that. It comes to show what we are stacked against and what we are up against. So to know that the odds were never in our favor, it just goes to show that we have to work twice as hard and go twice as further, just so that we can be treated equal and on different scales. You can just put that in your workplace. You can see that on the field, not because of my skin color, but just the fact of what we all had to been, like what we all been through. I know we've all been in situations where the odds were not in our favor, if it was small or if it was big. But then being able to know how you face adversity can then be like understanding the value of yourself, but also the value of understanding that things are not going to be fair as well. So what are you going to do when those opportunities arise,
Right.
when the odds are not in your favor? What are you going to then do? So that's the thing that builds character, because those are the things that you're going to be able to take with you from the football field to your real life job, to like your family, and being able to build the right type of family and be able to construct your whole foundation under those core values. So when your morals and ethics are then coincide with those like core values, I feel like you're headed in the right direction. And that's something that I had to realize, because I feel like a lot of things didn't work out in my favor. I had to make the most out of my opportunities. So when you start realizing that life isn't fair, and you start putting yourself as the person in the reflection of your ideal decisions, you don't put it on like, dang, this happened because of that person. It was like, no, what can I do to be able to put me in a position to know that this is going to work in my favor, because I've made it the decision to know that they don't have no choice but to make sure that this works for me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I had to realize a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing about understanding, where you're at in life and how you're going to go about life, is understanding that simply everything is not going to work out in your favor. And that's just the truth about that.
Just sideways. You hear me?
Huh?
I said just sideways.
Sideways?
Yeah.
There you go. And so, like, another thing I felt like was, a lot of the times we go through a series of different emotions and feelings and things like that. Like after you're over, I think a lot of us hit this wall where it's like, damn, like what's next? When we come to realization that we're not gonna be able to play football or anything like no more. Like I know there was one time in JUCO I ended up getting hurt. I had tore my ACL and my MCL, and I realized like, dang, I may not be able to go D1, or I may not be able to fulfill my goal and my purpose in life as in being able to take care of my family and being able to do what's right or what I felt like was right. And I felt like my dream and stuff was over. So I went through a lot of series of emotions, depression, anxiety, and also understanding that maybe if I become a failure, like what has been my purpose after that if I failed? Especially having a dream that you have your whole life, it's almost like starting from scratch. Like, so what do you then do from there? And like having those series of emotions don't make you feel right, because now you're looking for a different identity. Now you're looking through yourself to understand that, damn, maybe I'm not who I thought I was, and all that self-doubt. And this almost takes more than just you to pull you out of that, because you got to do a lot of soul searching. Like, what would you think would be some advice you would want to give other people who felt like they were in positions where they had to have their career come to an end? Now they're in a position where they feel like, damn, what's next? Like, because we all got expectations from other people. Like for me, some people look at me like, man, you should have been in the league, or you should have been doing this, you should have been doing that. And all those expectations, bro, whether we believe it or not, we hear it and we soak it in. So like a lot of the times we feel like not only do we feel ourselves, but these other people have different perceptions of us and feel like they have their own identity placed on us. So
Right.
I mean, to you, I'm like, oh, that's my brother. That's the, say he fight, he do this. But to another person, I may be looked at as like, oh, he just do a podcast, he fighter. Or to the next person, he'd be like, oh, he just the goofy dude from St. Pete or whatever. Like, so we all got different perceptions, identity, and expectations from other people. But what is it that's going to hurt you the most when it comes out to all that? But I think the only thing that would hurt me the most is just being able to fail myself and failing my goals.
Right.
Not being able to achieve my goals. I don't think other people's opinions would have mattered that much. It would just be knowing that I didn't fulfill my goals as much. But what would you think would be advice to be able to give people when they have this kind of mindset, knowing that they've not going to be able to fulfill what they wanted to fulfill through that certain vessel?
I think that they need to find out who they are outside of the sport. And like you said before, that requires a lot of soul searching.
For
And I feel
sure.
like that's something that athletes need to be doing when they're young. But then I also feel like that's something that even as peers, so even if anybody on this call, anybody that's watching this, or even you and I, we need to watch how we talk to athletes or even anybody and not place our expectations of them and in a sense to where they feel like that's all that they are, right? Because you don't
Yeah.
want them to paint the picture of themselves as, well, I'm only a ball player. Even though that's all you do, you have more to add than that. Like you have more value that you can bring from life than just being a ball player. So I'm not going to name his name, but I do know somebody professionally in the league, and I got to talk with him the other day, and I said, "Yo, what do you have set up in case football doesn't work out?" And he, said, "Oh, I'm investing, da da da." And I'm asking him, well, what is it that you're investing in? And it didn't really get too deep, but in a sense, I was really asking him, bro, if you tear your ACL or if you break your neck tomorrow, who are you without sports? And it was a tough question for him to ask, probably because he never been asked that. So when you've been painted as just a ball player, it's kind of tough when you have to face the reality that as you get older, nobody cares about that. I mean, unless you're Hall of Famer type and you can kind of ride that wave forever.
Yeah.
But if you're just an average athlete, even in the league, I don't care what league you're in, basketball, football, tennis, I don't care what you are, unless you're one of the greatest of all time. After sports are over, who are you? What are
So,
you doing?
so for sure. But what about like for people who don't know? Because I know a lot of people like have their different definition and their different perception of what soul searching is. And I think that's something I kind of want to break down as of right now. And when we say soul searching, it's not just finding your identity. it's finding your purpose, but also understanding what are you going to do at the time to be able to get to where you really still want to be able to be at. Because like a lot of us find ourselves, stuck in one of these like places where it's like we're not going forward, but we're not going back. We're like stagnant in
Right.
in life. And my thing is, I think a lot of soul searching comes with what really truly makes you happy. Because out of everything that you're doing in life, you will then come to this moment where it's like, damn, like what am I doing? What truly makes me happy, and who am I really truly trying to impress? And also is what happens after I reach the expectations of these other people, or what happens when I'm tired of fulfilling the expectations of other people, or what happens when I feel like I can't reach those expectations. Then you go through a series of, dang, what happens next? What happens next? I think that you truly have to find a sense of happiness and manifest it within yourself, because trust me, you will always have to race to reach an expectation of this person, and that person, because they all have different perceptions of who you are and what you do. So you can never sit up here and ultimately say that, like, oh, I'm trying to be the best, this best that. I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but at the same time, is that the only purpose that you have in life to truly make you happy? Because when you take a lot of that stuff away, like, I don't think people think about it that intuitively, with what comes along with that. So like, I think soul searching really is breaking down what truly makes you happy, starting from the root of why you started the journey that you started, and what were you trying to fulfill on the way to that. And then keeping that in mind, because when things ultimately don't go your way, you're gonna have to sit back and think, damn, what was it that made me start on this journey? What made me go this hard? What made me feel like the days I was gonna stop, it made me keep going, or it made me revise my plan and then keep going at it, So I think soul searching is a big thing that some people have to do, and not just soul searching when things get rough, but doing it on a a day-to-day basis, understanding and being in tune with what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and not just being a robot. Because some of us come content and complacent with being in life, and then being like, well, I only do this because so and so I'm good at it, or because they just pay this or pay that. But at the end of the day, what I be feeling like sometimes is that I don't want people around me to be complacent, but also be content with their well-being of being average, in the sense, just doing what the regular thing to do to get done. But at the same time, I got a different purpose. So at the same time, I also have to understand the people that I'm talking to, that I can't always put my purpose on other people. That's why I just inspired them to then be able to make the most out of their situation, because a lot of the things that happen to one person doesn't always apply to the next. It's just a matter of what morals and ethics that you can take from that situation and apply to yours. So also being able to I think an alternative that people can have in the athletic standpoint is that being there, they can always stay engaged and always be in a place where they can always be around that sport or anything. So like, for instance, like me, like I played football, but at the same time, I didn't want to be an athletic trainer. I didn't want to be a coach. I didn't want to be any of that. So that I didn't feel like that would be an avenue I wanted to take when I was done with football. But I think a lot of the people love football in the sense to where that's the vessel that they want to carry. You can continue to let football be your vessel, so you can become a coach, to be able to let that be the vessel that provides, or like that helps you get to your purpose or fulfill your purpose. And I think that's another thing that people can end up doing, is being able to stay around that sport if they like to be able to do that, if it's going to coincide with their purpose,
Right. Yeah.
And now that thinking back on it, I think the expectations that we have for ourselves and others, I think that we have to, like, it goes back to soul searching, understanding that what I want to fulfill through myself, I can fulfill it through different avenues. It just takes time and patience to understand that. Like for me, it was one thing I always loved was fashion. I always loved fashion. I always loved, not even just designer stuff, but just clothes. I just love the thought of clothes, putting things together, matching stuff like that. And it made me happy doing things like that. And I think it was part of my soul search was understanding my purpose outside of athletics. And what I did was I was like, dang, what if I made baseball jerseys? I'm gonna make baseball jerseys. And I just started doing this. Like, this is my baseball jersey of my Conscious Gems podcast baseball jersey. And then like another thing that made me happy was being able to talk about issues and topics like this, and then be able to give another side of me, because I feel like a lot of information that I have inside of me and perspective that I have inside of me can then be cast into the world and be able to give them a sense of poise, knowing that they have a certain type of understanding and knowledge of things that they didn't greatly have so much knowledge on. So I started being like, okay, what makes me happy? How can I then do that? How can I then do that? So then
Right.
I started like, tapping into that. So I think that's one of the beautiful things that people can be able to do is start tapping into those other things that make you happy and just go through with it. Like with my kids, like my son, he likes basketball, so I just give him a basketball and let him play with it. Give him a goal, just do whatever you want to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Giving them the chance to be able to let their brain work at a speed that they would like to do it. Because I'm telling you, you're more inclined to do something that you love and you like than something that you don't. So what made you feel like what made your soul searching easier? That's my question for you.
What made my soul searching easier?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, when you were done with football, you had to find yourself, you had to find your identity, you had to realize like, am I Malachi Miles, the football player, or am I just Malachi Miles, the dope person that I feel can do anything? Because that's how I feel. I feel
Right.
like I was never Adrian Palmer with a football player. I felt like I was just very dope as a person, and I was going to do anything and everything that made me happy, no matter if it was people who thought I was weird or crazy. It was just something I wanted to do as because I was going to spend more time with myself than I was with anybody else's opinions. I was going to spend more time with my happiness than anybody else's opinions. It don't matter what you do; it's always going to be opinionated. But what made your soul searching easier?
I'll probably say that's a tough question, bro.
It
I
is.
don't.
It
I
makes it
honestly
really
don't
difficult.
know what made it easier. Um,
Well,
'Cause I don't.
how
It
about this?
wasn't
How did you go about soul searching?
okay. Because I was about to say like nothing really made it easier. It wasn't really that difficult for me. But from everything I've been through, it didn't really take me a long time. It wasn't super stressful. I wasn't depressed after I was done playing sports. But that also has a lot to do with me already mentally preparing myself to stop playing sports. So I know a lot of
Exactly. Yeah.
people I could be speaking from my perspective, which is I decided to stop playing. Opposed to some other people where they maybe played all the way to the senior year and just never got picked up to go pro, or they played all the way until they could no more until injuries came their way. So for me, it was like I genuinely wanted to stop playing sports. So that's why the soul searching started way before. Soul searching
Exactly.
started when I was younger, knowing that
Yeah.
you're more than a ball player. Figure out what you want to do when you're done playing ball. I just don't want to be a millionaire.
You
I
know,
want to be
you know what I do want to say though, because I know we've all felt a victim to this. It's like I think what we all feel a victim is this. You ever felt like you were playing a sport and somebody came up to you to be like, give you that speech like, make sure you have a backup plan because football isn't always guaranteed. Does it make you
mhm,
feel like, damn, you don't believe in this like I believe in it? Like, damn, you don't believe I'm gonna really make it?
facts.
But like, and I think a lot of us fall a victim to that because I felt like when I would get that speech, it's like, damn, I'm all in with this. If I don't make it, boy, you jinx me. You feel me? Like, you know what I'm saying? You jinx me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But now, like, I feel like that was the realistic talk that you have to have with some kids because you want them to have an understanding that yeah, this may not work out. Like, find yourself now on the way to where you're headed at, so you don't have to have that. Damn, like what do I do now? Because you already got a
So,
head start back in the day, knowing that damn, if football don't work out, I can also do this, that, and the third. Because you have, bro, God gave you way more gifts than He gave you, and He didn't stop when He like when God made you. I feel like God didn't just stop with all right, a little bit of athletic ability or a lot of athletic ability. Then oh yeah, you straight, you don't need no more. Like I
right.
feel like we have way more stuff to be able to offer to the table. So I feel like people would be doing me a disservice if all they thought of me was just as a ball player. I wouldn't be wanting to be remembered as that. You know what I'm saying? And I think
So
that that's one of the things that like we have a problem with. So
I feel
I
like
think that's one of
there's two things. There's two things to unpack with that, right? So on one side, I feel like you have. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. on one side, you have people who tell you to have a backup plan, and it's not because they don't believe in you. It's that they know, sometimes from personal experience, that things don't always go your way, and that they are consciously aware of once the sport is over, you need to find yourself, right, and who you are. So they're trying to prepare you.
Yeah,
But
for
then
what
you
they
also
want.
on the flip side have those, who are telling you to have a backup plan because they don't think that you're good enough, right? So you don't know which is which, and I feel like you shouldn't focus on that. You should focus on the message behind both of those, right? So you should treat it as one and the same. So treat it as, okay, even if I do go to the league and I become one of the greatest, I still have to have something after that because
You
you're not going to be
still,
able to
yeah,
play
for
sports
sure.
forever. Okay, and even if I don't make it, let's say I'm not that good, but I think I am, but I'm not that good, and I don't have the athletic ability to make it past a certain level, right? Still, I need to find out what am I going to do after because sports obviously not going to last forever. So I feel like with that, as athletes, we on two sides, even with that, I feel like we don't have a backup plan because we almost feel like if we have a plan B, plan A ain't going to work because now you focus on the plan B, right? But then
Right.
on the flip side, you have those who are very mature and they understand that anything can happen, and they understand that just because they have a plan B doesn't mean that plan A isn't going to work. So for me, I know this logo behind me is plan A. My film business is plan A, but then I've also have other investments that I have that are my plan Bs. But that doesn't mean that plan A is not my focus, right? So now, if I could go back in time, probably give anybody advice that's playing sports, bro, have a plan B and have a plan C. Still focus and give all your devoted time to plan A. But when you're not doing plan A, you need to be doing plan B. And you need to be focusing on plan C because once plan A doesn't work out, you have a lot of knowledge that's going to come right after. So, what do I mean by that? Hold on. So, what I mean by that, if I can go back in time, I would have studied and read a lot more about entrepreneurship while I was playing sports. Because now, when sports is over, that's honestly on me because, like I said before, if for those who are paying attention, I already said I wanted to be an entrepreneur or a business owner before, or regardless if I was playing football. So why was I not focusing on that while I was playing football? Because it's almost deemed bad to focus on a plan B. At least in sports, I feel like it's like this
Yeah, yeah,
connotation where it's like you need to be all in. You need to be doing this. You need to be worried about nothing else, right? So you have this thing where it's like, okay, well, if I think about anything else, I'm not gonna make it. So I have to focus, right? So I know for me, if like I said, if I go back, I would definitely be in my spare time be focusing on plan B and plan C. That way, if plan A doesn't work out, or if an unfortunate, tragedy events happen, or even if my emotions change about plan A and I don't want to do it anymore, plan B could then supersede and I have enough knowledge to get going right away.
yeah. And I think that's the beautiful thing of understanding who you are and understanding the soul searching that you've done and know that they succeeded. Because I know with myself, the different things that I've been able to take away from like sports, like as of right now, I messed my ribs up. I'm supposed to be having a fight on Halloween, you know, but I messed my ribs up. So as of right now, I've been putting all my time and effort to my podcast and to my job, working with the kids, the trouble youth at my group home. Shout out to the trouble kids at you home, trouble to the kids. So I've been dedicating my time to that. Like, so it's Sunday. This week I put in 85 hours this week. I dedicated that much time to being at the group home with those kids because I knew how much my presence and how much impact I have with them.
Right.
That's the type of focus that I have when I put the dedication into my fighting. I said, but knowing that I can't train or anything like that, I started putting more time and effort into working with the kids. I started putting more time and effort into my podcast, coming up with different clothing designs, coming up with different ideas,
Right.
different things that I'm gonna come up with how I can then be able to propel myself in the direction that I'm headed in, knowing that, it's going to help out the kids, it's also going to help out, my pockets because I'm going to be working a lot, but it's also going to be able to help them understand that there's a presence somewhere and that there can be able to be help that they can rely on this person, you know. So it's deeper than just, you know, I guess I feel like it's deeper than me. But those are the different things that for example, that I was able to take away from my football career and then be able to apply to my day and age now. So now I'm reaping the benefits of being able to be a person that goes the extra mile to get what I want, because I've always had to start behind the people who are at the starting point. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So just knowing that I've always had to start behind, if I ever start evenly, I'm already damn near ahead, because I'm so used to the pace of always having to play catch up. You dig what I'm saying? So that's something that we can take away from all of that. And I think I really appreciate the things that I've had to go through, because it built me. Because I know that I probably wouldn't have carried these morals and ethics the way that I do now if I never would have had to use these morals and ethics to be able to get to where I'm going. So like we talked about before, I use these morals and ethics to be able to use them as a vessel, because these were the basic things that I needed to be able to be the person that I am to get me to where I'm headed at. You know, and I think a lot of people should be able to be at peace with understanding that, but a lot of people don't understand it because they probably did not have somebody who could sit down and have these kind of one-on-one talks to understand that, hey, look, this is probably where your focus should be at. And that is true. I feel like with what we have is in sports, that we come into this context of like mostly football players, we coming from this standpoint, is that we need to put more of our time and effort into one thing, so that we've invested so much time into it that so it can't fail. We just know it's going to work, you know. But being realistic is knowing that you have to also tap into your other gifts just as much to know if that was going to work, because you may have been tapping into one gift the whole time, knowing that this was supposed to be the other one that was supposed to work. Mm-hmm. So you bet and gambled on one gift. But me as a person right now, bro, I don't even gamble, but I'm finna gamble on my fighting career. I'm finna gamble on my podcast and my clothing line equally. You know, I'm not just finna gamble on my fighting career because I feel like that's the one that's gonna make me the most money and that's gonna take me the farthest. No, I'm gonna gamble on all of them, because one may have longer longevity and it may give me the core values that I may need for the other thing. Because you may not know where you're headed at unless you actually put the time and effort into it to get to that place. You know, and all my purposes align with all of the different avenues, from being a clothing line designer, a podcast founder, and a fighter, you know, MMA fighter. So I think that's the beautiful thing about me soul searching and then figuring it out, you know. So,
8 minutes.
Yeah, I see it. So like
a little less.
Yeah. So I mean, that's basically it about how I feel about everything and understanding. I think my advice, I think that's how we can wrap this podcast up with a certain level of advice. I would say this. Whatever you have that you're dealing with, whatever you feel like you're doing, you're coming to an end of a chapter when it comes down to your athletic career, or even in life or opportunity, you have to also understand that there are different things out there that are meant for you to be able to tap into. You just have to be able to be the person that taps into it. There's so many things that can be happening in your present day, in your avenue, in your body or anything like that, or the opportunities can be given to you, but it's so much that you have to do to be able to find out how it can then benefit you, if that makes sense. You know, so that would be my advice to others, is be able to tap into you. Find out what truly makes you happy and tap into it. You never know how far it can then take you, or how happy you can then become doing what just solely makes you happy. And it's deeper than just, if you love listening to music, man, you can even start a page or a playlist about music, or even talk about different things on your IG about music, or start sharing playlists to different people, or become a DJ and stuff like that. Just start manifesting it. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is a little bit of brainstorming and a little bit of courage, and you can just figure out how far you would then go off of that. So that's my
piece of advice. And I'm gonna use an analogy, and it's gonna be a gym too. So people need to look at life like a book, right? So look at your life as if like it was a book and you have chapters, right? So as you're living, you're literally writing your book, right? So if you only focus on chapter 1, chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are all going to be blank. So you can have a dope ass chapter 1, but what happens after chapter 1 is over? There's no more book. So write chapter 1, but also brainstorm and think about writing chapter 2. Take a break from chapter 1, write chapter 2 out, write chapter 3 out. At least know what's coming next, so that way you're not only focused on one chapter in your life, and then once that chapter is over, your book is done. Because then what happens? Your book looks like this, very small. That's not enough value being added. Everybody wants a thick book, right? Everybody wants a long, valuable life. So if you think of it like that, focus on other things other than just chapter 1 and make all your chapters great, not just one chapter. That would be my
Yeah.
advice.
But also, I would say this though: don't get so caught up in your previous chapters, but understanding that it can then hinder you from your other chapters in life. Because, for instance, like me, I've let my childhood traumas be put me in I guess a mental prison of feeling like that is going to happen to me over and over again. So I've been so cautious of reaching my next chapters to the point where it feels like, damn, this may happen again. I don't never want to live out chapter 3, 4, and 5 again. So in my next chapters, I'm I'm cautious of how I do certain things because of I'm so scared of that. But so some of the time that I had to realize is that some of us is really gonna have to start letting go of these traumas and these fears because it's gonna stop us from growing into the people that we are
Yeah,
like destined to become.
that's
So
true.
that's definitely a piece of my advice to piggyback up off of what you said, which is very dope. So having that perspective of believing in yourself and then being able to also know that you pray for certain things, that you got to do some groundwork as well. So faith without work is dead, and I think you guys should know that. So I'm not going to just pray to be the richest person or pray to be the best podcast or anything like that. I have to also put some groundwork into it as well and know that God is then behind my plan as well. If you have
Yep.
faith in anything like that, you should have faith in yourself. And I also will understand that a lot of these stories out there, yeah, there are great dope stories of people making it, but also you can be a success story as well. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us understand that a lot of people did not make it because but it was different variables. But a lot of you gotta understand, a lot of people didn't make it because of this circumstance, that circumstance. But trust me, somebody with the same situation as you with a success story. So let you be another person with your situation to be that success story. So that's what I just told myself is that I'm not going to just sit up and let my circumstance be stronger than my faith or stronger than my focus or what I have planned out for myself. So just be cognitive of what you're doing. Place you're really headed to a place where I feel like you're destined to be at. You know, you just got to believe in yourself, truly. So. But
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
that's really about it. So I mean, if you guys have any questions, we got like 4 minutes left. You know, you guys can go ahead and drop the questions down there if you guys have any questions or any comments. Also, I'll be dropping this episode on my YouTube channel, so you guys will be able to go ahead and catch this on my YouTube channel. Also, I have my Conscious Gym jerseys coming out soon, so be on the lookout for that. The white, red, and blue colorway. So yeah, my YouTube channel will be on that. And also, my jerseys will be sold on my Conscious Gyms podcast website, so you guys can go ahead and check that out as well. And yeah, be on the lookout. I got a real dope surprise for you guys coming up with my next series of episodes. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. So yeah, the Conscious Gym jerseys is coming out soon. Be on the look for that. So yeah, you got anything you want to say?
Man, if there's anybody that needs film, High Focus Media, full production studio. We got a music studio being built as well. So anybody's ever in Las Vegas and you need something filmed or anything that has to do with the camera, let me know. On the side as well, I know a lot of people have heard about Forex. If anybody is interested or if they have any type of negative connotations or negative views on it, let me know. I'm the guy to talk to. I'll give you a true, raw, and authentic rundown of how it works. That way you don't have to rely on the opinions of others and you can take it for somebody who's actually doing it and is successful from it. So let me know if either of those entities you're interested in. Let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you guys have any comments and stuff like that, you can always hit my email, adrianpalmore19@gmail.com. So if you have got any questions, anything, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, share, comment, all that of the above. And yeah, dope podcast. So yeah, we out of here. Love, bro.